Swadika and welcome to Voice of the Nation special interview. Today you are with me, Nina Nirashamal. And for today we're going to touch a little bit of the Thai politics. As the recent months we have seen many political development in Thailand, including the ongoing Bangkok governor campaign, politicians switching parties, and the launch of new political parties with old faces and fresh ideas. And our guest today, he spent over 20 years in the political arena before quitting politics. But last week, he made a comeback with a new party. So please find out together what changes politics can bring for Thailand. Please welcome Kun Poom Suranand Vejjajiva, Deputy of สร้างอนาคตไทย Party Leader สวัสดีค่ะ
สวัสดีครับคุณนีน่าสวัสดีครับ everybody good evening I guess
Good
right?
evening สวัสดีค่ะ
Yes,
พี่ปุ้ม Welcome to the program Voice of the Nations.
Thank you for inviting
for
me.
joining our program. So first of all, like last week, we have heard your names on the news, social media, and all those news platform channels. You
Yeah.
made a comeback. You were in politics for over 20 years, right?
I was in politics for 20 years 20 plus actually, but the last 7 years I was out of it after the last coup in 2014 I guess.
Mhm.
So I was out. I spent most of my last 20 years are with Thai Rak Thai 20 years ago. In 2006 I was a cabinet minister, as the prime minister's office minister, and I was thrown out by a coup. Spent 7 days in a hotel. The last time around I was secretary general to Prime Minister Yingluck, thrown out by a coup again, and
So
7
you
days
have a lot of
7 days in
experiences.
the military barracks, so I was sleeping in the military barracks for 7 days. So it's a progression from a hotel to the military barracks. So I decided that if I should stop for a while, take a back seat, I don't agree with the coup, but since it's done, they have to go on, life has to go on. And for myself, I decided that I would stop for a while, open a small cafe, seven years ago, and then we expanded branches and everything. And then COVID in the last 2 years make us come back to the same coffee shop I own. I'm left with two branches. So that's not the reason why I returned to politics. But that was my life for the past 2 decades in public and private life.
You have tastes of almost everything in
Yes. I was actually once after the first coup in 2006. I became like you, Kunina, doing interviews with people and commentaries on TV. But this time around, I left all of that and became, well, I took a barista course and make coffee, but I don't think you want to drink my coffee.
Okay, so why suddenly switching from politics to have a slow life, probably a dream life that most Thai people would like to have that?
I have to warn all the audience that wants to open a coffee shop that it's not as easy as it looks. But if you have the love, you have the passion. It was because of after the 2006 that I told you that I went in interview restaurants, doing food show basically. And I got curious because I travel around the world, got a chance to taste a lot of food. And then, I end up with a basic list of my comfort food that I think that I will try my hand. I used to be in the private sector, but I didn't own the company, or if in Thai, I wasn't the real entrepreneur, or the owner where you are really like a เจ้าของ of the restaurant. So now this time around, it's my business, and it goes up and down. I was like, when I was in politics, I was promoting incentives and policies to help SMEs. And if Kunina and the audience remembers, we have that Thai kitchen should be the world's kitchen and
Yes.
things like that. And when once you start your own food restaurant, you know that I better go and recorrect some of those policies maybe, because once you're a real operator, it's a different life. You know, you be a policy maker and then you become the real operator. So now I see both sides of the coin, I guess.
Hmm. So, what's the challenge in politics? I mean, what's the differences of the challenge in politics and also as a barista?
Well, actually, if I own, if I was in my 20s after university and opened a coffee shop, you know, it probably went bankrupt, or I probably have a divorce with my wife because we probably have a lot of arguments of how to do things. But I think my experience in government and in maybe in large corporations too helped me in terms of at least the management skills. The management of people is the same. You know, you have to have an organization, you have to have delegation of power. You it's different with politics, where it's the delegation of the management of the Thai bureaucracy or the management of politicians, which I can tell you later that it's not possible to manage Thai politicians, but it is possible to manage your employees. But basically, it's management skills, I guess.
Hmm.
And you have to have the passion for it. If you have passion in politics, then you, or as you do, you know, I mean, if you have passion in journalism, you will do it well. And I had the passion for the last 7 years doing this business. I still have, even I kind of returned to politics, but I still have this passion of trying to run my business. And actually, they probably need me more too because of this crisis, both the COVID, the pandemic, and the economic crisis that's going on. But you know, I felt guilty. I felt that people were asking me why I don't go back and help the country.
Hmm.
And because you know, Dr. Uttama of Sang Anakot Thai was a good
Right.
friend, and I knew Dr. Somkit 30 years ago, since I was in the private sector back then.
Hmm.
So it's a combination of talking. They were talking to me like, not that I'm playing hard to get, but they were talking to me like 6 months before I finally agreed that okay, I'll do something for you. And something was, I was talking to them that I would like to be behind the scene. I don't want to be an MP anymore. I was once an MP for 4 years. I was a cabinet minister. You know, I you've seen everything.
Hmm.
And if you've seen everything, you don't want to sit at the head of the table, because I don't have any ambition to become prime minister.
Hmm.
So that's no fun, you know. But at least to, if I can help or contribute my ideas or my experience, and especially when I was with Kun Thaksin in Thai Rak Thai, I was one of the younger staff, the younger generation, that he gave me the opportunity to go into politics. So now I'm 60 and I see all these young people in their 30s and 40s joining the political party. I felt that if I could be, you know, some kind of coach, some kind of advisor to them and help them, they have the energy to do change. So if I
Hmm.
can do that, that would be a great contribution, at
Right.
least.
Well, with this comeback, as you mentioned before, what would
Mhm.
you like to implement the most? Well, from last week that you gave in an interview that you gave last week, you say that this party has its policies. The
Yes,
policies that attract you is mainly about economic
yes,
development.
yes. I think it's a combination of things, Kunina, and all the viewers might agree with me that we do need experienced professional
Mhm.
people running the country. I'm
Mhm.
not saying that this government is bad in a way that, you know, I mean, I worked with General Prayut before when he was Army Chief of Commander. He's a very smart man. But I
Mhm.
think the situation has changed with the pandemic. You know, the management of the pandemic. Every government in the world have their faults,
It's
but it
challenging.
seems, yeah. But I when I was with Kun Thaksin, we had SARS, remember, and that was managed well. But it was not a real world pandemic at this
Mm.
scale. Every government has a problem, but it seems that other governments seems to recover or find their track much faster than us, and we are still, you know, muddling along. Uh,
Running behind.
yeah, you're just trekking through the mud and try to find our way. We still have problems. Still 100 people. Some people died every day, and it's unstoppable. They said Omicron is not as harsh as Delta, but people still go to ICUs and die, and I think that has to be managed. The consequence of the pandemic not being able to contain in the right manner affects certainly the economic situation of everyone. I mean, the small people who doesn't have the capital, reserve capital, would suffer the most, and most of them because the way we manage our pandemic, and it's like a roller coaster. So, for me, for example, in my coffee shop, once everything seems to look better, we start opening, we start maybe um, refurbishing our coffee shops, and thought that everything would be all right, and then come a new variant wave, uh-huh. And everybody stop again, they shut down, and then they start opening up again like last year.
Okay,ค่ะ. So
Okay.
when the Omicron hit,
Yeah.
yes,
And so we had to change everything. I mean it's a roller coaster. So that means that once you start, like, I have friends who does pubs and restaurant and night places. They were refurbishing, they were investing their last money to open their shops, and suddenly they cannot open.
mhm,
So that's the problem. That's the problem, where there were wrong signals sent, the communication wasn't right, and we couldn't get our track. Even now, my revenue recovered about only 60%. I'm not complaining. I understand the situation, but I think a better management, with a real plan, short term and long term, would be good. The people on the streets and doesn't have any money anymore,
right.
and the small shop owners have spent their last baht, trying to survive. So this is why I think government should become clear. It's not just handouts. Handouts are resolving the immediate problem, but it doesn't resolve how we can recover. A lot of my staff, I paid them, but then they couldn't go anywhere because they couldn't find a better job. The hotels are still closed. There are no service charges. There's no OT, and they feel that okay, they can survive day by day maybe if they get the money, but they could not have enough for savings. And these people have 2 3 kids who are primary school age, and they were thinking, if I don't make money now, how can I send them to school? How can I send money back to the province to my mother? Because it doesn't look like they have hope and future. So that's the problem. I guess it's a basic economic platform that
Right.
needs to revive the short term, or reassure the people in the short term that they will be able to survive with certain mechanisms, and then maybe a more sustainable economic plan for the medium term and long term. And these days and age, long term is not 20 years. Long term is 3 to 5 years. Everything changes, technology changes, and somehow we are not on board. We are missing the train of the world recovery.
Well, you're mainly concentrating on the recovering economy, which is one of the main policies of the
Yes.
Thai
Yes.
Party. Apart from that, what are other policies that attract you, that really make you come back to this?
Well, I think these need to be developed, because economic problem, it becomes the wealth gap is higher, and when the wealth gap is higher, people get poor. Then there are a lot of other issues. The safety. You see crime going up, you see rape cases going up, um, you see in the news that everything is really bad. I mean, if you sell gold these days, you have to kind of barricade your shop because everybody's pointing to the gold shop and snatching gold, and it's basically all these things, and then people feel, especially at the street level, they feel that there's injustice in this country. People with privilege are getting more or getting the easy way out, but the people who doesn't have anything, have to resort to survival skills at their worst in some cases. So
Mhm.
those things are issues that need to be addressed as soon as possible. Even, for example, the health issues. I mean, in the pandemic, the finding of vaccines is one thing, but we have ignored, the psychological part, where other countries will have psychologists and people talking to, distressed people who faces all these issues.
This is
And
correct.
I think Thailand have ignored that. So these are the issues that resolve the crisis in 1 or 2 years, and then have a more sustainable plan. And I guess I would be happy if that could be done.
So you mentioned about being a politician, and then after that you took a break and you became a business owner owning a cafe. So does all the policies when you were a politician help easing your business back then when you were a barista?
I think I see more faults in the policies that I promote. The policies were right. For example, I told you about SMEs, and in this stress, there are a lot of mechanism of the Thai governmental owned banks that could help the small and medium sized enterprises, and which they do. But in the end, there are always at the operation level some red tapes, and s- I mean, in Thailand, you still have to know somebody to
Right.
be able to get through those red tapes. I think that's not a fair system. I do get I try to go through all the channels, and luckily I had a good banker, so she was able to help me, get me through all this maze. But for regular folk on the streets, to go into a bank without collateral and trying to have his cash flow survive, it's not easy in times of distress. So maybe it gives me certain point of view of where to look for help in distress. But for regular folks, I mean, walking to a big bank, that's not a confident building activity. And then you get treated badly because you are just a regular guy on the street, which I don't agree with it at all. And I think we should change that.
And what would you like to implement?
Uh-huh. So we'll try. We'll see how we can do. I mean, the times have changed, and even policies that were good during Kun Thaksin's or Thairak Thai's day might not apply now. So we need new innovative ways of doing things. We need to be able to have our population be digital literate, um, or else they wouldn't be able to do things like I'm doing now with you, Kunina. I mean, this saves a lot of time. This gets people to meet, but not everybody have all these tools. And even
Mm.
we have all these tools, we still have a lot of glitches.
Technical problems.
It's not a technical problem. So we need this kind of thing, and we need this to be able to survive in the world. I want to see people who does OTOP products in the village able to sell their product directly through these kind of internet platforms or apps, and they can directly without going through brokers, and hopefully
Mm.
they can get through the red tape of import export. But I before the COVID days, there were a rising number of younger entrepreneurs who did this, but then after during the pandemic, I think everything collapsed. So right now we have to rebuild that too.
Well, do you think or do you see the differences between the Thai politics back then, before you took a break, and now? And what are
I
the
think
potential? Yes, what are the
I
potential
think it's the
opportunities?
game. I think the politics right now is a big mess for me. I mean, the 1997 Constitution. Um, Kunina, you remember that 1997 was a checkmark year because the economic crisis happened then. But because we have a constitution that was considered a democratic and a people's constitution in place, that's why the political crisis didn't happen. You know, the economic crisis was able to contain through various governments, and eventually the IMF loan was repaid during Kun Thaksin's year. But everything was democratically, in terms of running the country. It's democracy, and I think the 1997 Constitution was helping a lot in terms of building a more stable political arena. But the present Constitution seems to favor, in their argument, favor the smaller parties to be able to rise up, which is in a way a good, but at the same time you get, like 40, 50 political parties in parliament with a lot of one or two MPs, and then 10, and then you have these large parties with a lot of factions, and
Mm.
they seem not to be able to find consensus or agree on things. That means that the power was not is not stable. Once the power is not stable, that means that uh, groups of factions can be formed and try to take the power from the other faction who holds the power. And it's this game. This game happens in Thailand in the late 70s, the late 70s, before General Prem took over for 8 years. And then the political scene became stable. And these kind of things go through a democracy. I mean, Italy or Japan, LDP went through this kind of period too. But we are now in this period where it is very unstable, and there are a lot of politicians and a lot of money used in politics, in elections, which means that they are investing in something. I mean, if you spend like 30, 40 million baht for an MP seat to win, I mean, Thai love to save their faces, right? They could
Mm.
spend 40 million to get elected. But at the same time, you're getting 100,000 baht salary. You're not recovering anything of that money if you don't corrupt.
Oh,
So it's this cycle, which is, I mean, I don't have the answer if we can break it, but we have to help break it, Kunina, or else we'll be cycling down during while other countries recover, and our population would be in turmoil.
well, everyone hopes like that, but they're saying that this constitution is the existence of this constitution is because people vote for it. What do you think about that? Do
Well,
people
I
really vote
guess
for it,
yes,
or people
yes,
really
yes.
know
I mean,
about
I don't think that we have to go change the constitution immediately, but then we have to evaluate every written document, every written law. Thais have a lot of, and sometimes it's not in the law, but it's in the enforcement. So Thais have a lot of good laws, I mean, like family laws, children's laws, protection. We have children's court, family court, and things like that. We are one of the most advanced people who have all these laws written but not enforceable. That's one thing. And the constitution itself, I mean, we don't have to rewrite the whole thing. I hate, to have another coup, or some people say, okay, let's tear this one up and rewrite the whole thing. But you have to evaluate, the political system. Is it stable enough? How can we get basically decent people? I cannot say everybody is good. It's good and evil thing, and there are a lot of dubious careers in this country, but at least decent people with good intentions, and some knowledge in their field. I would like to see that to be the majority of the people in parliament, and that would advance the country most.
Me too. I would like to see that too. So, how do you see the alignment of your party at the next elections, the next prime minister, next?
I, it's a tough question because we are a new party and we are still trying to find candidates. A lot of people still feel that, are you for real? Are you gonna make it? If I vote for you, it's gonna be a wasted vote because you're not gonna win, and things like that. That's in the mind of people. But I hope that in this short time, I mean, maybe we have 4 months, maybe we have 8 months. It's up to General Prayut, but we'll do our best to present our case, and hopefully we get enough votes to be able to what you call nominate a prime minister candidate, which I expect to be Dr. Somkit Jatusipitak. So if we could do that, we need 25 votes in the parliament to be able to nominate our own candidate. So I wish we could get enough confidence from the people, at least 25 to 40 votes, which we can propose Dr. Somkit, and then after that, let's see how other parliamentarians think, who is the best prime minister candidate then.
I'm looking forward to see that happening, Ashley. But last, since we're running out of time, could you tell us a bit more about, summarize of your comeback to politics, and of course your party, the one.
Well, we are fielding candidates, so I mean, Kun Nina, if you were interested in running. You can always contact me.
For now, I'm good.
I think it's more fun to be a journalist. I tell you the truth. Politics is something else, and I do encourage the new generation to come in, but it's not the dream work. I mean, don't go watch American political movie and think you can change everything, or even don't you think you can change everything? But you have to try. That's the problem. That's the only thing. You have to try, and you have to be patient, and you have to read books like one of those books that tell you how to deal with difficult people and things like that. But in any case, I'll do my best. I'm at retirement age, and I mean, if I don't do this, I would be sleeping in hospital beds in 10 or 20 years and say I should have done that. I don't know if I'm going to be success or not, but I hope I can build a new generation and new ways of thinking in Thai politics.
But at least you are part of the history.
Well, I'll see you around. Please come to my coffee shop.
Okay, if there's an invitation, I would love. Yes. Okay, we'll be brainwave.
Okay. Brainwave.
Okay, for today, thank you very much for.
Thank you very much.
Our program, and thank you very much for sharing your thought. That was very informative and interesting, and we are looking forward to see you more and more in the political field. Okay, and welcome back.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so that's all for now. For Voice of the Nations, stay tuned every Monday to Friday from 8 to 8:30 p.m. สวัสดีค่ะ